Hey, welcome to another riveting episode of Busby Millionaire. Um, it's fall, end of summer after a COVID summer, COVID spring, and it's getting cooler. Housing market's getting cooler, and I'm here to answer a question that I did on my anniversary post. And the question was, what's the influence of COVID on the real estate market? And it's a great question, and a lot of people have been asking me the same thing. I've been asking the same thing, and I've been trying to look at as much information as possible to get some answers. And I don't know if they're all the right answers, but they're just some interesting thoughts that I've come across and some things I've thought about myself. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I think there's two major things to think about with COVID and what it's done with real estate. When I say two areas, commercial real estate and residential real estate. So let's talk about residential real estate. And I've covered this in a few of my posts, but I'll go more in depth here. So here's what I saw over the summer. We had to, what investors and real estate agents had to switch drastically the way they thought about real estate and how they sold it and bought it. So you couldn't go into a house. A lot of people were doing virtual showings. I went to see a few houses. I just had to put on a mask and wear gloves, which is fine. But I saw two things in our neighborhood in terms of what was the action on the street with houses that went for sale. A lot of the places when they went for sale, they sold quickly. If it's a good house, it looks great. This is a desirable neighborhood. These two houses, just a couple streets over, a few doors away from each other, both went quickly, and for over asking, about 10% over asking. Then down the street, there was a dump that was talked about in a lot of different real estate blogs, and it went for $800,000 over asking, $1.8 million, and it's a teardown. Another post I did was of another junker on my street that wasn't even put on MLS yet. It was just being advertised as being put on MLS, and it was going to be posted there. But before it could be posted on MLS, it sold for $2 million, and it's a junker. Like, you've got to go in and completely gut the place. But then down the street, there was this other place that was renovated, made into 2 apartments, and sat on the market. And so, but for the most part, a lot of the places were selling. And if it wasn't selling, it was probably for a good reason. Like, it might be in an odd spot. There's another house that we looked at, and on a great street. I have a house on the street as well on Markham, but it's an odd house. It's at the end of the street, and it's not the most desirable looking place, and it was just kind of weird. So, and that would have happened, and it was really expensive too. It's 2 point something million. I think even under normal circumstances, that house would have stood on the market for a while. So that was the action I could see. I haven't looked at any stats. I've seen some other people and their research and their stats. So I think houses were moving, even though real estate agents and buyers needed to adjust the way that they go and look at houses and do that sort of transaction. So I didn't see a terrible change in it. The other thing that happened, we all know, was about mortgage deferrals and rent deferrals. From what I've seen, the few of the stats I've seen, there weren't a whole lot of mortgage deferrals as what people thought they were going to be. It was quite low. And I don't think there's that many rent deferrals. All of my tenants paid rent only one of them needed like 2 extra weeks to pay, which was nothing. And I covered a video about, my position on that was, help them out. If you can float them, and arrange for payment afterwards. So that was an area I thought, what people were talking about was going to be a lot of gloom and doom. But it turned out that, it wasn't that bad. The other area of rent deferral and mortgages and that sort of thing, I think the hardest hit was small businesses. That area, you see for lease signs up all over the place now on retail streets. I really feel badly for the restaurants and other small businesses that are going to be permanently shut down because of all this. So I think that area of commercial real estate is going to be highly affected. The other big area of commercial real estate I see that's going to be greatly affected, and I'm curious to see how it does fold out, is office towers. And with this whole forced experiment of working from home, we've seen that it works, and a lot of people aren't going to be returning to the office. As much as that environment was conducive to a lot of collaboration, it's also one of the highest costs of any company is office space. And if after this you figured out that your employees can work from home, and they want to work from home, a lot of them, I think it's something like 40% or 50% want to work from home now, then that means you may only need 40 to 50% of the office space, and that could cut 40 to 50% of your lease contracts and expenses. So I think that's going to be greatly affected. Also, the businesses that are supported by office workers, all those retail places in the path system and all the food courts and that sort of thing, those are going to get hit super hard. So I think commercial real estate is where I think is going to be the biggest change. The other area that I talked about or touched on in my stories was the whole thing about people moving out of the city. And I think there was a move to move out of the city before this. This just magnified it. People couldn't afford to, young couples couldn't afford downtown Toronto. And they were already moving out. The thought of somebody, I know a lot of people, I worked with people that lived in Hamilton and commuted every day into the office. They hated the commute, but that's what they had to do. Now they won't be doing that. They're just going to, and I think they're enjoying that freedom and that flexibility. So I think COVID just amplified it. People were already buying in Hamilton, St. Catharines, wherever they could get on a GO train and get into town, they would do it. I think what this will do, though, is push people even further. If the workplace, since the workplace has gotten used to the idea of people working from home, they're just going to go further where they can get more bang for their buck. And the people that I like to call them pandemic proof, the higher income people that were already living downtown are going to stay downtown. And I think downtown real estate, homes, condos are going to hold their value. There might be a slight dip, but they're going to hold their value because the people that can't afford them will still want to live here. And the people that were on the fence financially and struggling to get their dream home, they're just going to have more incentive to go and move outside of the city and work from home. And if they have to come in once a week, they'll just come in once a week. So I think that's where we're at with the effects of this whole thing. I think a city like Toronto, because it's such a faceted town with all sorts of different job opportunities. We're always going to attract a whole bunch of different people. We're not a one-trick pony here, so we don't count on one industry to fuel this economy. People are still going to want to come here. People are still going to want to live here, and it's still a high demand, high standard of living sort of place. So, anyways, that's all I got. If I have some more thoughts, I will share them. I'm just curious to see what the next 6 months are going to bring in, especially this stock market and the effects of the U.S. election and that ripple effect it's going to have with us. All right, that's all I got. Let's Millionaire out.